Welcome to Behind the Aisle podcast, where we are just two wedding professionals sharing a no bullshit approach to what goes on behind the scenes in the industry. My name is Sarah, and I'm a wedding photographer.
And my name is Katie, and I'm a wedding planner.
And welcome back.
How are you?
I'm great.
Great.
Highly caffeinated. We were just talking about this, but I think I'm cutting out caffeine, guys, because I feel like I'm going to explode. And not in a good way.
I literally just looked at Sarah and I was like, are you irritated? And you're like, I just am on edge. I was like, okay.
I feel like I'm high. Like, I feel like it's not good. Like, not in a good way. I just, like, I feel like I'm coming out of my skin.
Oh, my God. Yeah. So us caffeinated people who love caffeine, we would say that's exactly how you want to feel.
I don't like it. I don't. I cut caffeine out for like 4 months, and then I decided to start drinking it again, and it's not great.
Yeah.
I feel like a monster.
Jesus.
Okay. All right. Well, today's topic is juicy as always. We're talking about education and conferences. Education and the conferences. Okay.
I could just start word vomiting right now.
Oh, I know. First of all, how many conferences have you been to?
I probably couldn't tell you anymore. Like, there are too many to count. Conferences, workshops, masterminds, all of it encompassing.
Yeah.
Definitely more than how many fingers I have.
Really? I have been to 6.
Okay.
And that was enough.
That was enough.
That was enough.
Yeah.
That was enough for me. I've also been in conferences. I've spoken in conferences and held my own workshops before.
She was like, and that was a choice that I made.
I've honestly thought about bringing it back. I've thought about doing education again. But damn, I don't love it.
Yeah, especially in our industry, the education portion of it, my God, it's kind of like one of those things I feel like where people who enter into the wedding industry, they see the finish line. And we've talked about this before, where, like, for example, the luxury market is like the finish line. You feel like there's like this weird pressure where it's like, if I get into the luxury market, like, I've made it, I'm successful, type situation. I feel like it's the same type of thing also with education.
Yeah.
Like, if you become a speaker or an educator of some way, shape, or form, like from B2B, that's business to business for those that don't understand that acronym. But if you become like a B2B educator, again, it defines your success. Yep. That for some reason it adds more like value to you.
Yeah. So from a photographer standpoint, there are probably 4 people that I can think of off the top of my head that are educators, and they make it feel like that's the finish line.
Yeah.
Because they talk about their monetary value. And you also feel like you obviously won't be doing, you feel like you won't be doing this for very long, or like until a certain point or a certain age is where your cutoff is. So after that, what do? You teach people what you know.
Yeah.
And then that's how you make your money. Yeah. But I mean, there are people that are making multi 6 figures off of education alone, and that's where their entire business has gone. From somebody who has tried to do that, it's a whole lot of fucking work.
Yeah.
Like, you don't really understand like the amount of work and the amount of money that you put into education in order to get the return. So if teaching is in your blood and like that is your life force and you just get so much satisfaction from teaching, then education is probably where you should go. If you want it just for the sake of the money, I don't think that's where I don't think that's where you should go.
Because I also feel like too that from those same educators, when we're talking about passive income, that's where I feel like that's been a plug, not just photographers, but in general,
right?
Like wedding industry educators. That's where they will like make the plug of like, hey, if you're not going to be doing your craft or whatever, then you can make this thing or whatever, which is like underneath the umbrella of education, whether it's
a workbook or a
something along those lines,
online course or something.
Which I feel like, okay, sure. But there are many, oh my God, there are so many other like steps and I feel like parameters and things like that too that need to happen before you just start putting shit out on the internet.
Yeah. And those people also have massive teams too.
Yeah.
Those people that are doing it really, really, really well, they have a huge team backing them.
Correct.
That they pay a lot of money.
Yes.
So I think you have to look at it with a grain of salt because I think you can get starstruck and you can get like money hungry and oh my God, this person is telling me that I can make multi six figures by creating a workbook and like putting it on the internet and oh my God, I can do this. Well, that person did it because they had 30 people behind them.
Yep.
Doing their marketing, creating the workbooks, making the videos.
Yep.
Like they're just one person but they're the face of that company. So
making the graphic that tells you that you can do this.
Yeah. Like, but because they are the face of that company, you believe everything that they say and you believe that that's that one person doing it.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Correct. It's kind of reminds me too of, I feel like where this particular demographic gets taken advantage of is those that are like single moms or like just people in general with families, and they idolize then a big educator with they also have a family, and it's like, oh, and they use like a family or like
they're exploiting their family is what they're doing
for real. And they're like, and you know, as a single mom, like I grew my business to 6 figures within 3 years by doing this, and you can find out more like in this seminar or in this workbook and all that kind of stuff. Babe, like they're not being transparent though.
No.
With the sense of like you were able to get it that way because maybe yes in the very beginning you were a single mom and you were struggling and that, you know, the work paid off. That's the hope. And that you were consistent, keyword there, consistent with your workflows and your systems to the point where you were able to get up to a certain extent, and the very first thing you outsourced was like a nanny.
Yep.
Or maybe you were able to hire a family member and be able to give them a full-time salary, or maybe you just have a really great community or village behind you that was able for you to do that. Can you like go from the trenches of being a single mom and like work your way up and obviously, yes, be that 6-figure success? Absolutely. The problem that I'm having though with that particular demographic is that no one's being transparent of like, it actually took me this long. It took me 10 years to get here. I was in the trenches for the first 5. Then I was able to put, but
nobody talks about that. So it just looks like it happened.
For real.
Yeah.
Like little Jimmy was in daycare then for 3 years. And then from there I was able to have a part-time nanny then for the next 4. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's no transparency behind this because it's ugly.
Yeah.
Like it's not pretty. It's not sexy. No one wants to hear, oh yeah, I got to 6 figures in 10 years. Everyone wants to get rich real quick.
Yep.
There is no way for you to get rich quick. Unless you literally win the lottery. I feel like.
I will say nowadays people do think that you can get rich quick because those that go viral.
No.
Yep.
No.
Yes, it happens. It does. It happens, and you can't sweep that under the rug because it does happen. People do go viral, especially on TikTok, depending on what platform you're on. I'm not saying in this industry you will, because this is not an industry that's coveted for virility. Is that the word, virility? That seems like it means that you can make babies. Virility? Virality?
Oh, okay. I was like, what SAT word is she trying to use?
Going viral.
Viral.
This industry is not one that will typically go viral, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, but there are people out there that do get rich quick because they go viral, and then all of a sudden they're monetizing it. That's how that happens. Is they go viral, and then now they're monetizing
1%.
it. It is the 1%, but it's all we see because that's what's being pushed into our face. So it does happen. It's just not as easy as it looks though for everyone else.
Well, no, like for example, if you take like, I don't know, if you look at all the like little TikTok stars, like Charli D'Amelio, like her whole D'Amelio family, which they're riding on her coattails, but that's a whole other different soapbox I'm not going to get onto, the poor thing. She, even from the beginning, she didn't go viral after one video, though. She was consistent in posting her TikTok dancing videos.
Yeah, but that's the beginning of TikTok. That's how you had to start. Now you can go viral in 30 minutes based off just one video.
Right. But like, where is there a correlation though between one viral video and how much money you got in the bank?
No.
See, that's the issue that I'm having, is that unfortunately people aren't realizing that reality, and they immediately think, oh, if you're like a viral creator on some sort of social media platform, you must have like coin.
Right.
And no,
a lot of those people that do go viral and get consistent with it, they already had money too.
That's what I'm saying. Yes, yeah. For real. Like there was some sort of like back end.
Yeah.
Like they already came from like like you said, a consistent like workflow and all that kind of stuff. I just kind of remember like I will always for the day that I die, I'm going to use Vine as an example. That shit was online and offline within literally like 20, well, it was more than 24 hours, but like it went offline within 24 hours. They made the announcement of like Vine is going under, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, we all idolize some like Vine stars, all that kind of thing too, which now they've moved over to TikTok. So I'm following a couple of like my Vine favorites and stuff too. And they've had to rebuild their platform to some extent. I mean, damn, you had like these teenage boys having some sort of weird like meet and greet conferences and shit. And there's like 10-year-old girls that are like screaming their head off over this 16-year-old, all because he's doing like a hair flip.
We're getting off topic.
But like, okay, so that whole thing, it's encompassing in the sense of, again, then some of those folks then have, because they are no longer relevant. Oh, there's something. They're no longer relevant. So then they're like, let me just turn to education then, in that sense, because then it's going to lead me to the
promised
phrase,
land.
To the promised land. No. It's going to lead me to like this statement of like, in our industry, there are no such thing as experts, just experienced people. There are no such thing as experts. There are just experienced people. You have seasoned vets.
Yep.
That is it.
Yep.
We're going to have a different podcast episode about our industry not being regulated. Our industry is not like the medical industry, where obviously in order for you to become a general surgeon, you have to go through many a year of schooling. You need to get many acronyms potentially behind your name. We don't have that in the industry. So when you are hearing someone, or if they are self-proclaiming themselves as an expert, the hope is, and what needs to be happening is that quote unquote expert needs to at least have experience in some way, shape, or form.
I will say the argument to that is on my side. As a photographer, there is a technical skill that goes into that. So there is schooling that you can do.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
From a wedding standpoint, that all goes out the window.
Yeah.
But as a photographer, I think there are people who can be deemed experts.
Oh, yeah.
On certain things. Because there is a lot of technical things that go into that. But from a wedding planner, a florist, a DJ, any of those types of people, and even a wedding photographer, I'm just saying, like, people will argue that I went to school for such and such, and you know, I am an expert in lighting and all that stuff. Just take that with a grain of salt, because in the wedding industry, there is no prior education that is needed.
Yeah.
To become quote unquote an expert at something.
Yeah. I think even so though, like even if you did get like a degree in something, again, if you are not potentially using that degree or in that industry in which you got your degree in, you just because you got a degree in it, you are still technically not an expert. I feel like you have to have a lived experience in order, on top of the education that you have gotten. On top of that, it's twofold.
Agreed.
It's not just like a one thing of like, oh yeah, I have a master's in like business, but I've never been in any sort of like business scenario at all.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
I'm going to okay, so you read a textbook and you spent that much money or whatever, where I can also get that textbook from Amazon and I can also teach myself then at that point. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think specifically within our wedding industry, like for sure, like I think of like potentially high profile, like other forms of photography that, yeah, you definitely got to have some like back end education. before just picking up a camera and calling yourself an expert and going into a certain field. Absolutely. But yeah, like for our specific industry, wedding industry, there's no, at least as of right now, there's no class, no degree, and I majored in wedding photography.
Yeah. Yep. There's hospitality, but I don't think that has anything to do.
Yeah. On the planner side of things, you know, that with our internship program that we have, we partner with George Mason University, and it's underneath their School of Education. They have a whole hospitality sub school, I guess you could say. And it's those kids are, I won't say kids, sorry, y'all are young adults. But those, you know, students are trying to get into either corporate, like planning, into hotels. Sometimes they're getting into like sports marketing, like it's into there too. There's plethora of like different things in that sub school. But so you can get a degree. However, in the wedding industry though, you don't need one.
Yeah. You can just go to Google, Dr. Google.
I don't have a degree in wedding planning.
University Google.
Yeah, for real. I don't have a degree in wedding planning.
I don't have a degree in photography. I'm completely self-taught. So
same. It's all lived experience to that extent. And even and I will even shout from the rooftops too that I am not an expert in certain areas of potential like planning or whatever.
I think that also relates to the term professional.
Yeah.
I think people throw that word around a lot without having the experience to back it.
Yeah.
I am a self-taught photographer, but I do deem myself as a professional photographer because I've been doing this consistently for 7 years.
Correct.
And this is my full-time job. This is what I do. Like I know what I'm doing.
I feel like I don't really hear the word, like the term amateur photographer happen anymore. It's like kind of like a cuss word or something.
Yeah. You just say you're a photographer or you're a professional photographer. But I think people throw that word out after a year of doing photos, and they think that like that's gonna make them more money.
In your opinion, what do you amateur and then go professional, like where in your opinion, obviously everyone's gonna have a different opinion.
Yeah. Amateur, I think this is a hobbyist who has picked up their camera and wants to potentially get into the business but doesn't really know, maybe takes photos of their family, some people's families, doesn't really have a whole lot of background in photography in general, is really learning and wanting to learn. But anyone can be an amateur photographer. Anyone can pick up a camera, throw it on auto and roll. Like you don't really have to have any kind of background to be an amateur photographer. Just pick the camera up, have a DSLR. Professional, I would say you have to, I would say you have to have had this as a consistent business for at least 5 years.
Okay.
I would say I wouldn't have even, I don't think I would have called myself a professional after 3 years.
I think I'm like a baby planner self.
Yeah. I might have thought I was, but looking back, there's no way that I could have been because I hadn't experienced all of the things that I have experienced up until this point. Now I can roll into any wedding day regardless of the location. I don't even need to know what location it is. I've done I've done weddings where I've literally rolled up same day because I've had to do them for other people.
Wow.
And I've known nothing. Ugh. They've handed me a timeline and say go. And I'm like, okay. And I'm totally comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
I can roll into anything and say, this is the lighting situation that I need to use. And it works out. Like I don't have stress and I'm not trying to like boast my own or like toot my own horn here. I'm just trying to, I'm being humble about this, guys. Okay. But I will say, like, I don't have the stress or the anxiety every time I roll up to a wedding and I'm like, am I going to fulfill my duty today? No, I'm fine. Like I can do this. Like, I think that's where the line gets drawn is you have the experience to back what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
And people look at you as the professional. You roll in and you have confidence. Mm-hmm. You can direct a room. You can say, this is what we're doing next. People look to you for answers. I think correct me if I'm wrong. Does that seem professional to you?
I definitely 100%. I mean, that's kind of, again, it kind of, because our industry like isn't regulated, again, I'm going to use like the medical like world, like someone to compare it to. I don't know like the different levels and whatnot too. Or you can like the military, I can kind of do that where I guess it's different where, you know, you've got infantry and then you've got officers and all that kind of stuff too. That's even different.
There's no ranking. Yeah, I think is what you're getting at.
Yeah, there we go.
No rank.
Because like I know like in medical school, obviously when you like you're like a medical student and then but you do like residencies, and I'm gonna make this all out of order. I can't remember like all the different like things you have to go through in order to officially become a doctor. In our industry, again, there's not really
you just pick up a clipboard or pick up a camera and show up.
For real. And then you just do trial and error after that. But I think it's the terminology where like, wedding, like a baby planner. I can't like, see, that's my ranking that I say like, oh, she's a baby planner. Like, is that like an actual like stamp of a term? No, I just use that.
Yeah.
Or like a vet. I think again, and I think in our industry, it kind of reminds me of like when you go to like a doctor's office or when you're filling out like a demographic like checklist or whatever of like what age are you between like 0 to 16 and then 17 to 25. Like our industry has something like similar to that where it's like, okay, have you been in business from like 0 to 3 years? Yeah. And then there's like the 3 to 5 and then like the 5 to 7 or 5 to 10 or whatever, or 5+ or 10+ years or whatever. I think I've seen those, and those kind of,
determine rank
timelines.
Yeah.
I think if you guys are watching on YouTube, you're seeing me like stare at my two fingers, like kind of like distancing themselves. Like those time frames, I've seen those type of, time frames kind of be consistent between like the 0 to 3, 3 to 5, 5+, 7+, whatever have you. And that kind of communicates, okay, levels and whatnot. Like if someone came to me and I had them fill out a form and they're like, I've been 5+ years in business. Okay, you're professional at that point.
Yeah.
You come to me and you're like, oh, I've been 2 years in business. Okay, that's great. But you were a rookie.
Yeah.
In this.
Yep.
Like in this manner. So I feel like when it comes to education and conferences, obviously a lot of the education, the conferences, workshops, all that kind of stuff, that's all encompassing. And I'm not going to list all the freaking names underneath the one term. But most of those are, I feel like, for the beginners, for the rookies. Mm-hmm. The problem that I'm having is rookies teaching rookies.
Yep.
Because those that are experienced and have gone into education glamorize being an educator. But again, there's no transparency on how they got to this point.
Right. And
essentially what qualifies them as being an educator. Mm-hmm. Just because you have done photography for 1 year or planning for 1 year, or you've been a florist for 1 year, in my opinion, does not deem you qualified to teach somebody else. Mm-hmm. In a sense of you were taking other people's money and now hosting a workshop class. Like, absolutely not. I just don't. No. If you're going to be like, hey girls, like let's get together for girls' day and like we're going to make our own like flower arrangements. Okay, I think that's different.
Yeah.
Totally different. But I feel like there has to be some sort of qualification
to monetize.
Yes, I feel it's a moral thing that's driving me crazy where I'm kind of like, the whole rookie teaching rookie thing is what I'm having really hard issues with, because again, like I sound like a broken record, but because the educators are glamorizing and they're like, look how much money that I'm making off of like me being an educator. But they're not also talking about, again, like how you made the statement of, but they already had money to start with. They had money to start with because they were doing their craft for so long and built up a nest egg in order for them to dip into the educational world. Mm-hmm. That is not being talked about.
No.
So then sometimes when these rookies now are creating conferences or workshops or master classes or seminars or masterminds, like one-on-one coaching sessions. Do you know how many times that I have seen someone who's been doing maybe something for 2 years and all of a sudden I'm a coach? No.
Yeah.
No.
I totally, yeah. I also think people get into the education, at least from my experience, I think people get into the education for the glamour of it, because they want to be a host, because they want to say they've held a workshop, because they want to hold a conference.
Where in our society?
Because it's luxury.
Who deemed getting on a stage with a microphone in your hand or a headset attached to your ear, you talking to a crowd, why does that deem value?
Because we've looked up to it. We've looked up to actors. We've looked up to people on stages. How did
this start? Like,
I don't know.
understand.
I mean, we can go back to fucking Shakespeare if you want, but we have always looked up to people on stages because they have a sense of confidence. They have a sense of worth. They have a sense of monetary value. I mean, it all boils down to money. Well, to be totally honest, a lot of this boils down to money and how much money people say that. I mean, there are people who join cults because of this. Like, it is. It's a thing. And I mean, I've seen it, you've seen it, everyone's seen it, but there is a monetary value to watching. Like, you want to be the people that are on the stage because they it's deemed worthy. You want to be that person that's up on the stage that's teaching these people, because I know. And from somebody who has been on the back end of conferences and been a speaker and seen how an entire conference rolls, you don't really understand the lack of education that these people have as well. Like, these people who are being deemed educators don't always have the education background. They're just standing up on stage because this is the place that they wanted to be.
They have catchy one-liners and all that kind of stuff.
They talk about their family, or there's some kind of, this is what irks me, is when people
I know what's coming.
I've been to conferences before where you go to learn, and you might learn for 3 minutes. And then all of a sudden, we're on a soapbox talking about our traumas and our mishaps in life and the things that got us to where we are and made us stronger and blah, blah, fucking blah. What am I supposed to do with that? What am I learning from that, other than the fact that, yes, somebody, and I'm not, I gotta disclaim, I'm not like bashing anyone's traumas and that's great. You were built up to where you are now. Beautiful. You can get there too if you have this background. But if I'm paying money for an experience, for a conference to be taught by such and such people, I expect to be taught.
Yep.
Not to learn about somebody's trauma.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I don't care.
Yes.
I don't care. I that's not what I paid money for. Yeah, it looks great.
I also would think it's the abuse of the position that you've been placed into.
Right. And I've gone to conferences where I've gone to consecutive conferences, and it's the same fucking thing. It's the same spiel, the same trauma. What is this? Like bringing, what is this? It's like, there's a word for this. Where we like,
you pull on your heartstrings.
We're glorifying trauma is what it is. Romanticizing trauma. Like, and you're trying to pull on people's heartstrings, and then all of a sudden at the end of this conference, here's a link to my one-on-one coaching for $3,000 if you want to learn more.
Fuck off.
Or the free ones. Oh, babe, don't get me started on the free ones. Oh my God. I can't tell you how many of these motherfuckers I've been on, these free workshops. If you're going to give a free workshop, give me a free workshop. Okay? Don't give me a free workshop for 30 seconds and then point me to where I can pay for your full coaching.
Yeah. It's clickbait.
It's clickbait. All it is an hour-long clickbait. And it is the most frustrating thing that I have ever witnessed, and I have been subjected to it so many times, because you think this is going to be the free workshop.
Because our industry is not regulated and the educational portion is not regulated, then the rookies and like the baby whatevers that come into this, and when I say baby, I'm not talking like these are young people, like I'm talking like they're young in business.
Yeah.
They don't know any better, because again, due to non-existent regulation whatsoever. There is no means of qualification. You just look at the means, like the metrics of what people look at is how many circles are they in? Who's in that circle? How many followers do they have?
How close can I get to them?
For real. Like
is really what it is.
Exactly. And so it drives me like buck wild when you have experiences like that. I mean, I one of the instances I remember for a while, I mean, I know you and I both started our businesses the same year in 2016. Didn't know each other then. But so we're the same age in regards to business ownership. But like one of like the biggest like grabs, I guess, like during, I feel like in my like young business years, that was like a metric was if you cried at a conference.
Yep.
That like, I will never forget one of the conferences that I did attend. There on every single seat, there was the little travel pack of tissues, as if that was like the badge of honor or like your little keepsake or something like that, because you're going to cry at this conference. Why is that a metric?
Yeah.
I don't understand. What I want to be able to pull away from is all of the tangible knowledge that I can take and apply that into my business and then see results. Obviously, I know that I have to do the work, because we're about to get into, before you buy a ticket to a conference or an education, here are some tips. After Sarah has been to 6 conferences, I feel like I have been to literally 10, probably more. And I'm talking like conference. I've like signed myself up for conferences and workshops and masterminds, all that kind of stuff, whatever. Out of all of the many that I actually have attended, there has been one. Given if I've literally only been to 10, there has been one that I feel like that has been fruitful.
There's only been one that's been fruitful for me as well. Yeah.
And I'll tell you like qualifications of like why that was successful and why that continues to be successful for me. Even in today, after it was a mastermind, even the mastermind being over. But the whole like little packs of tissues and like the motivational speakers, but they're educators though, but you're really just a motivational speaker at that point. You're just on stage, like again, trying to pull on heartstrings, all that kind of stuff. That was a metric. And I'm here to tell you, no.
It's the community thing. I think everyone wanted to be a part of that community because of who was in it and how close you could get to those people. And it made you feel like you were a part of,
that you got invited into a room.
Yeah, that you were invited into a room and you could sit at their table. But I'm not granted, if you are paying to go to a motivational conference and that is what has been lined up, and we're going to a motivational conference, I'm going to feel my feels. I'm going to cry.
If that's what that's marketing is. Yes.
But we're going into these conferences wanting to actually learn tangible education where we can then apply it to our business, and then all of a sudden we're being all of our
I'm
trauma,
crying in a room with strangers.
Yeah, all of our trauma is being glorified and romanticized, and now we're all crying together. And I love you, but also like we're all praying together for no reason.
No, yeah, I
don't
unless you have signed up for like a Christian or another kind of like.
These are not Christian conferences. Like I am not religious, but yet here we all are in a room praying together. What the fuck,
dude? That's so wrong.
It's so cringy.
As a Christian, that is so wrong.
Like
I don't. No.
I would say to then teach you off of this. If you're going to host a conference or you're going to host a workshop, be absolutely upfront with what is going to be talked about.
Stop using clickbaity taglines for what you want, or using taglines that for people like what they want to hear.
Yeah. Like just be honest about what's going to be talked about and then follow through with it. And leave it at that.
So here's like an open-ended question. If people actually though were honest about what to expect, like you're going to be in a room with like 50 other people praying to a God that you don't like either believe in or like pray to, and you're gonna like cry 3 out of the.
I wouldn't have gone.
Yeah, exactly.
But I wouldn't also be here talking shit about it. So I don't know what's better. I don't know what's better.
Honestly, I hate the fact that we like this is a podcast episode.
I do too. I really do.
Really hate it.
I do too, because I really would love some really good education. I would love to go to a conference, and maybe it's just the conferences I've signed up for and the ones that.
But they're all the same.
Yeah.
The majority of them are the same. You've got the same people on there. Okay. Mm-hmm. Also, we want to talk about same faces all the time. The lack of diversity on some of these platforms. That's a whole other thing that I could get on as well. That drives me up the fucking wall.
Yeah.
Is there's no diversity by any
But then
means.
also you get into tokenism.
So there's that shit too, whatever. Yeah. I'm ready to see names that like I've never heard before.
Yeah.
And that obviously, yes, that they've got the right qualifications or whatever. When I do my research, then again, we're starting to kind of get into like before buying a ticket, here are the metrics that you need to be looking at in regards to before like purchasing a ticket to a conference, or a workshop, joining a mastermind, doing one-on-one coaching, all of that type of stuff. There are parameters that I feel like based off of my poor experiences with education, Sarah obviously is going to like include with hers as well too. But there are so many other parameters that you have to look at, the qualifications that I think that need to be met, and before you hit add to cart and submit. especially if you are a rookie within the industry in that itself too, because everything looks real shiny, real cute, real good. That price tag is huge. So you must think, okay, if it's got a big price tag, that means I'm going to get big ROI on it. I'm here to tell you that is not always the case.
Yep.
That's not always the case. There have been a couple of times, I will be honest, where I've signed up for something that has been free, or that I've signed up for something that was like pennies to the dollar or whatever. And I've gotten some good content like out of it, and I've been able to apply it. But that is few and far between. Few and far between. Obviously, when anything is free, you do have to take it with a grain of salt. You cannot expect the world for what you get for free at all. I've just been lucky every now and again where I'm like, wow, I got all this shit for free. That's really nice.
But also know when you're going into something free, chances are at the end they're going to try and sell you on something
definitely.
else.
From a marketing standpoint, if you take the consumer portion out of it from a marketing standpoint, and someone who is providing that, I mean, that's a part of a whole marketing strategy.
I know.
In and
it's
of
just
itself.
irritating.
It is irritating, especially if you're just not made aware of it.
Yeah.
Like, or whatever have you. But yeah, just have that expectation. Sorry, I'm watching Zoe. She's going to go burrow into her blanket now in a minute. She's like, which spot do I want? Anyways, so here's some tips when it comes to before, buying a ticket for some sort of educational something or a conference of some kind, which I am seeing more in-person conferences are starting to pop back up now because the pandy is done, quote unquote. Before buying a ticket, testimonials. The website that the conference or the workshop is probably going to have are already going to give testimonials. I need you to dig a lot deeper than that. There are too many things that are fake reviews, fake testimonials. If it says like KDB on there, who's not to say that KDB person is like the host's cousin?
Right.
Or someone who got paid to do something. I literally anything else. Who knows? Or maybe it's just an excerpt from maybe a different service that they did and they just took it. Things like that too. So look for testimonials, but in the sense of it kind of is going to go hand in hand with references. So find out, most of those most of these conferences, obviously having had past attendees, you're probably in some mutual like Facebook groups or something like that too, or Instagram channels or whatever have you. Start asking around in the sense of like, hey, has someone been to X and so conference? If so, like, do you mind if I have a conversation with you before I purchase a ticket? Things along those lines too. So, and then having one-on-one. So here's the references portion, having one-on-one conversations with people in the past, and then you being upfront as well, being like, hey, I see that this conference is guaranteeing, or it is, claiming that I'm going to get this end result in my business or whatever have you, do you feel like you've got the correct ROI, which is a return on investment? Do you think that is true? What are some other expectations that, like, what was your experience in and of itself? Obviously, everyone's experience, you and I can go to the same conference. You have a different experience, though, than I have in the sense of that, too. So when you're asking for these testimonials or asking for these references, and you're having that one-on-one conversation with a past attendee, being like, hey, I'm looking at this conference because I want to accomplish or I want to take away the following things in this. Do you think that this conference will do that for me? Yes or no? Why or why not? Pros and cons to it. Things like that too. Number one thing, honestly, one-on-one phone call with the host. One-on-one phone call with the host. If the host of a conference or a workshop cannot carve out 30 minutes of their time to explain to you or to answer any questions or to really like peel back, okay, this is the heart of what this conference is for, or this educational portion is for, or this is what you should get out of this or whatever, red flag to me.
I've never seen that as a thing.
Really?
Yeah. Nor have I tried, but
one-on-one. The last mastermind that I attended, I was dragging my feet because of all of the bad experiences that I've had in the past. And this particular mastermind was real expensive. It was expensive for me. But out of all of the things that I've had, like I did all my due diligence about the testimonials, the references, dug real damn deep into the website too, even looked at potential. This host also, she actually posted about like actual ROIs that this past attendee, this is where they were in their business after attending the mastermind and applying this like concept or whatever. This was the end result for them. Actually showed receipts. There we go. So then I was like, okay, this all sounds great. Now I really want to but how did they get there? Like what was the pathway? Like, how are you going to take us there? And I got on the phone, not once actually, but twice. Because the first time I was like, okay, this is actually pretty good. And then my anxiety kicked in. And I was like, oh my God, now I'm scared. And then I had a heart to heart. And then that second one actually was more of like a heart to heart where I just needed a little confidence boost. And it was great. And then anyway. But I had a one-on-one phone call with the host for about 30 minutes and I asked all of the questions. And I'm talking like, where does the money, like my ticket sale, like the money that you are getting from my ticket, where is it going? How are you using it? What other kind of monetary expectation do you have? What is this, like the ticket include? Not just like, oh, you get this and then like a welcome party and blah, blah, blah. Like, where is it actually going to? Am I going to be expected to pay for anything else when I get there? If you are having speakers of any kind, where did you find them? Have you actually like worked with them before? Do you have any kind of receipts for them too? And that sort of thing too. Sometimes people are newer to like the scene. I totally get it. Like getting onto a platform. But again, I feel like they have to be some sort of expert qualification. They have to have been in the craft for a certain amount of time in order for that to be happening. So I did all of that stuff too.
I think that would be different for a conference.
You think so?
I do, because I think conference hosts might not always be the ones that are the main person.
What do you mean?
Like they might not always be the main, like from the conferences I've been to, you have the host and then you have X amount of people that are speaking. Mm-hmm. So the host might just be a host too, that's holding holding the conference. And then you have these X amount of people that are speaking on different topics. Yeah. So I don't necessarily think, I think you could still ask those questions, but I don't think that you could kind of go into all of the other people. I just feel like conferences are a little bit different than like masterminds because you're paying to be in a small group.
True.
But
I feel like even though with a conference though, like those people should still have some sort of like receipts.
Yeah, but a lot of times people are paying to go to conferences just to hear those people speak. It's not about like, you're not one-on-one in a small group getting to ask questions and like diving deeper. Does that make sense?
I think, okay, so it sounds like you've been to like really large scale conferences.
Yeah, like
100
plus people.
I'm trying to think if the one conference.
I think conferences are different than masterminds because I think conferences are cheaper, and I think there's less of an actual ROI.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like,
well, I would hope there's some sort of like.
There is, but I think it's all of like what you take from it. Not like I'm going to teach you fundamentally how to do this. We're going to go through it step by step in a small group of 25 people where I can ask questions, get answers, talk one-on-one, that kind of thing. Whereas like a conference, you're just kind of going to hear these people speak, and then the next person gets up and speaks, and you take whatever you learn from that person. Yeah, it kind of
reminds me of like it's a really big thing like for planners. Also other different types of vendors can go to this too, but the wedding MBA.
I don't know what that is.
Which it's held in Las Vegas every year.
Oh yeah, I've been there. I've been to the photographers part of that.
Okay,
like,
gotcha.
Same thing, but it's photographers only.
I think wedding MBA is for anything else but planners, but obviously like in the planner world, it's like this big huge thing. Like people get really excited about it, and I totally agree. There's only because in that sort of huge environment, you can't. Yeah, you're not going to be able to like the takeaways that you're going to have from that, you're going to have like little snippets because of the type of environment. I think your take on it all kind of circles back around to in regards to like the expectation wise. Yeah. When you're looking at conferences, again, you should not be just buying a ticket, just because, or I call it like influencer buying, just because all these other big names are going to be there, or maybe all of your other friends within your community are like buying up tickets and they're like, oh, we're all going to go together and all that kind of stuff, whatever. If you're just if you just want to buy a ticket, go shoot the shit and have a great time with like your friends in a different environment or whatever for 3 days, like in a random like location or whatever. Okay, that's fine. But again, that's what you're expecting. That's the whole prerogative of why you're going. Yeah. I think from my perspective is like from the educational portion, because that's where I've been burned, is like I've literally bought tickets and workshops and gone to conferences because I was expecting to be educated where I can take tangible items, apply them to my business, and obviously stay consistent with that, and then have results from it. Yeah. And that's where it fell short, and that's where I've gotten burned. And I was like, okay, now fast forward to like the recent mastermind that I was a part of, and I did all of those things beforehand before clicking add to cart and give them my credit card information, because I wanted to be like, okay, before I put myself in a room with quote unquote educators, I want to make sure that when I leave, get on a plane and go home, that I've got a notebook that I can continue to reference and like continue to educate and apply that into like my business. But again, that is because that was what the expectation was for me, is I wanted to go and get educated. Absolutely. But there are some conferences, that you're like, let's all go together and it's going to be a great time. And like, we're all going to go shoot the shit. Yeah. That's why me personally, I haven't gone to WMEA because I'm like, I'm not paying hundreds of dollars flying over to Vegas and all that kind of shit. Like, that's just not for me. Yeah. For some other people, they're like, that's great. Let's go ahead and do that. Whatever have you. That's totally fine. Some other little things too, just to kind of keep in mind before you're hitting submit, or, putting that ticket or whatever to add to cart, is, think about the money that you are, again, this is coming from perspective of like, if you're going to be educated. Okay. That's the whole goal, is you want to take tangible items away from whatever you're signing up for or attending or planning on attending, is take the money that you're spending, not just on the conference, but like the travel, maybe any kind of food or accommodations that you have that are your responsibility. Take the money that you will literally have to put in to this experience and think to yourself, okay, is what I am doing currently, am I going to be able to make that money back within a certain parameter? Mm-hmm. Maybe within 6 months, a year, whatever have you. I kind of look at it the same way whenever I'm thinking about bridal shows. If I'm going to sign up to at a booth for a bridal show of any kind, how many clients, how many services, what type of services do I have to book in order to, one, break even, but then essentially like to like make money off of it. Yeah. And that's how you can deem whether it's worth the investment. Right. Off of that one. So break it down. Of course, if you don't know all of those things, that's where I feel like asking the questions when you're talking to references, talking to the potential host, if you're on a smaller scale of a conference. Yeah, I can't imagine like calling up the host of like WNBA being like, excuse me. Right. I get it now. Okay, I get what you're saying. Smaller scale guys, sorry. And then this is the one that I had issues with when I was a rookie. I just kept buying more education after more education after more education. I will throw myself under the bus that from the previous workshop that I went to, if I did have any kind of tangible items and I had like a little notebook or whatever with all these different notes of like how to apply all these like little tidbits or whatever, I will be honest, I didn't apply those to my business, and I just kept buying more education, more education. So yes, are some of my little scorched feelings from the fact that I didn't apply those things, and I can say like there was no return on investment. Sure. Because I wasn't consistent in some of the things that I learned and applied into my own business. So I'm here to tell you all, okay, learn from my mistakes. Don't buy another ticket to another conference, another workshop, another mastermind if you haven't already applied the previous conference, workshop, masterminds, like takeaways already into your business and you've seen results. You just buying up education because you think the education in your rookie business is going to make you profitable. I'm here to tell you, incorrect.
Yep.
Incorrect. You have to apply the things that you have been taught beforehand in order for you to scale up. Because then at that point, once you apply those things, you can potentially see new holes or gaps within your business, and that'll help you discern, okay, if I am going to look for something else in the educational world, then maybe the thing that I was eyeing, that actually is not going to help me. And it's not going to necessarily solve my problem, but it's not going to help create tangible work items for me to apply into my business in order for you to continue to scale.
You have to be consistent as well.
The consistency is a huge, huge, huge thing.
You can't just apply it once and then hope for the best.
No, yeah. You really have to keep it going. You really, really have to keep it going.
The biggest thing that from somebody who's easily influenced, the scarcity tactics. Don't be influenced by scarcity tactics. That is a marketing ploy.
Yes.
I'm going to just lay it out there for you guys. People telling you that seats are limited, which they can be, yes, but also that things are flying fast.
Get the early bird rate. We're already, we only have 10 seats left after like 2 days of it being out. A lot of that is a scarcity tactic, scaring you into acting fast so that you purchase your ticket right away without thinking about it. I've fallen into that many times. 100%. I'm somebody that also comes from a family where the scarcity tactics win. And then the overconsumerism happens. I mean, the American society that's all that it is.
Correct.
Mean, look at like the Black Friday sales and all that kind of stuff are like for limited time only and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. So scarcity tactics aren't always truthful. So don't fall into that. If for some reason it is truthful and you miss out, you miss out. Hopefully that means that the conference was good enough that they'll have it again.
Yes.
Or whatever it is.
Do more market research about it. You can see how the conference is going to, like how it is.
Yeah. And then next time, if you still are thinking about it and you can act fast at that point.
There you go.
But that's something that I've had to learn. And it's hard to.
Oh yeah, I've bought tickets before doing all that research and stuff like that too. Just like you said, like the scarcity thing of like, oh my god, like the tickets are gonna run out.
Yeah. So that, and to piggyback off of the reviews, check to make sure that the people who are leaving reviews are not friends of the person.
How many times have you seen like on a conference or whatever that like the reviews are like the speakers? Like the keynote speakers then too.
Yes. Yeah. I've seen that. But a lot of the times those like just do a little bit more research before you give these people money, because you're going to get burned and it's okay. But we're trying to help you not get burned by conferences and workshops, etc., that are not for you.
Yeah.
And not really going to give you the education that you need. And then when that does happen, you can just like write it off and and move on and try not to do it again. It's all learning. But yeah, so I think we've all been subjected to the scarcity tactic, the influencer buying, the big names that are going to be there wanting to just be in the room, paying to be in the room, paying to be quote unquote friends with these people, paying to be invited to the table. Like if that is your goal, and that's something that I did a lot when I first started, if that's your goal, I can tell you right now, there is a very, very slim chance that it's going to get you anywhere.
Yeah.
You're not going to go to these conferences and walk home with lifelong friends. It's very rare that it happens. Sometimes it does. Sometimes you get lucky, but you're also not going to walk in these rooms to become friends with the people that are hosting the conference. You're not going to, it's like going to a concert and making eyes with the drummer, and you're now thinking like you're going to have a conversation with this person later. Like, that's just not what happens. And I think we go into these events with these high name speakers and think that because I'm in the room with this person, I might have a chance of becoming them or learning from them, or like, now they'll invite me places or whatever it is. Like I've speaking from experience here of the things that I've thought when I've purchased into these workshops. And I've gone as far as going out of the country for these workshops. I have gotten other friends from them, from those things, but not the friends that I originally thought that I wanted.
Yeah.
I've paid to be people's friends before, and it's really sad. Or paid to get close to people.
Yeah.
Because I thought that it was going to benefit me in some way. And it doesn't. It doesn't. If it's not acting naturally, then you shouldn't throw money at it to make it work. But yeah, I think that was great. I loved the education.
The education about education.
The ironic education that came from that. I think that's a great place to stop.
I think so too.
Yeah? Awesome.
Just be careful out there, y'all.
Yeah, just be careful. There's a lot. The internet is a
it's
treacherous
a saturated
place.
market.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so just be mindful, do some research, be careful. Don't just throw your money, your hard-earned money, especially if you're new. You don't got a lot of it. Or maybe you do, I don't know. But you don't got a lot of it to throw around to these places and to these people. So just do some due diligence and be happy with your choices.
Yep.
All right. Well,
Sarah, where can they find you on the interwebs?
You can find me on Instagram at Serendipity Photography, SARA, like my name, Serendipity Photography. And you can find us at Behind the Aisle Podcast on Instagram and behindtheaislepodcast.com. Where can they find you, Katie?
TILLYANDTEAL on the Instagram. Obviously, same thing for if you want to go look at the website, I guess. Give us a follow, rate and review, or and subscribe. All the things. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or in Spotify and wherever you can write reviews.
Yeah, we're kind of new to that. I don't really know where you do that at. But if you can, that'd be great. Thank you so much. Also, if you did not know already, we have a networking event that'll be happening in 2 days. It's our very first networking event. We're super, super excited about it. There may or may not be tickets still available right now. But if there is and you want to come, you can come, but you can also follow along on Behind the Aisle Podcast Instagram. We'll be doing some BTS of the event that's happening. We are super, super excited. And if you are listening and you are coming, I'm excited
to see you.
I know, but come dressed to impress, y'all.
For real.
We want to see you show up
pinks,
and show
the
out.
Reds, the ivories, the creams.
Yeah, it's Valentine's Day. It's Valentine's. And happy Valentine's Day or Galentine's Day or whatever it is that you celebrate on the 14th. If you don't do that, then happy anti-Valentine's Day. But yeah, we would love to see you there. We're super, super excited if you're coming, and follow along on some BTS and see what you're missing out on.
I know.
JK.
Can't wait to show you.
JK.
There'll be another one.
Yeah, we'll host another one. But yeah, well, thank you guys so much. Oh, also, if you have not done so already and you have a What the Fuck Wednesday to share with us, we need to hear from you. So submit your, you know what I've also been thinking about doing? Like weekly submissions on Instagram. Because sometimes I feel like if I put it in front of people, like it's seen and you can just like quickly write something. So like having you guys DM me on Instagram too, at Behind the Owl Podcast on Instagram. Just DM us too. Like you don't have to do the whole formality thing if that's a lot harder for you guys. Because I know sometimes going from platform to platform to platform,
or like if someone's remembering it, or like they see like us post on an Instagram story and they're reminded of like, oh yeah, I have a What the Fuck Wednesday, instead of like having to go just another click and just like submitting the form, they can just like slide in the DMs. And just tell it to us.
Just throw it in the
We'll read your
DM.
Stories from the DMs, so you don't have you don't have to necessarily submit the form. But.
Just do it. Just tell me ahead of time if you want to be anonymous or not. That's the only thing I need from you. But if you want to formally submit, you can submit at behindtheowlpodcast.com.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks so much, guys. We love you.
See you next time.
Bye.